This is not AI, it's a sneak peek of my new McLaren F1 team illustration, the first one of the season for my personal illustration and animation YouTube channel Art and Racing. But before digging into the creative process, let's see how this project was born and how I integrate the animation side and how is this unofficially related to the Formula 1. Last year I wanted an F1 poster and I was also planning to buy an F1 Lego set. In my opinion, the Ferrari set is the coolest one, and since my favorite driver of all times is Lewis Hamilton, why not? Also, I've worked for a couple of decades as a graphic designer and motion designer and several years as an illustrator too, and I have made some personal illustrations where I include cars and people. And have also a professional project for Audi e-tron through a company that I worked for. So I thought that it was a good idea to create my own and unique version, the prototype. I started this in November of 2025. So the Ferrari S25 was the last iteration for the Italian team. Not the best one, by the way. Obviously, I started with Lewis Hamilton, but before sketching, I set my foundations, an armature that could help me block the landmarks. It's like creating sort of a skull, and on top of that, I can draw the eyes, brows, nose, mouth, cheeks, mouths, and so on in a more accurate way. The next step is the simplest one, and it's blocking the bases. It just means to paint a flat color behind the sketch, avoiding values or semi-transparent strokes, and it will work as the base or more predominant color, but also as a clipping mask for further rendering layers. I like creating different layers for skin, hair, clothing, and separate one for accessories and other stuff. The rendering process is my favorite part, but it's also the most demanding in time, skills and decision making. I start by creating a layer with the hues or colors that I will use. For example, the different skin hues, lights, shadows, and other nuances like nose, cheeks, and lips colors. I do this same process for hair, clothing, and so on. The rendering process is just to start combining the hues to make the transitions in a natural way, but not making everything soft and smooth. Here I can start adding some features by selecting a brush with noise or texture. This will make the skin and hair look more natural and a lot less like a cartoon. The uniform is the less challenging since this is not the focal point of the illustration, but it covers a big area. It is the same as rendering the face, but I tend to process it less and give it a more painterly style. And finally, I add some logos, which I paint some or add some PNG logos and transform them with the Mesh Transform tool, or transform them with the Liquify Brush tool to push, stretch, expand areas or features of a logo or illustration. When I finished the Hamilton portrait, I thought that it could be nice to create another portrait and poster for Leclerc, and then create a team illustration and have the whole package. Charles Leclerc had the same process as described for Hamilton. I think that the interesting part for this portrait is that his head is turned in another direction, and the brilliant method for creating the armature lets you imagine it as a 3D sphere-like, and take as basis for the position of the left ear and eye, and then mark the coordinates for the rest of the elements of his head, as well as another features as the marks left by the helmet, which are not natural features in anyone's face. The cars are different creatures, a lot more challenging because it's desirable to make them as accurate as possible. For this .bo I decided to make a grid and apply it to the reference photo. This grid gives you more control over small features or car elements and how these are placed next to other elements and their sizes. I tackle each square one by one, hence the next square will become easier to draw since you already have more landmarks to start or continue from. By the way, I only draw half of the car and use the mirror feature to reflect the whole sketch. The rendering process is almost the same as with the face stage. Bear in mind the light is coming from a particular direction, so the mirror feature is not so useful over here, since you want to have the light in one side of the car and shadows projecting in the opposite direction. For the second car, the grid would have been a good idea and also a valid method to do it, but in this case I decided to use the vanishing point method. For this particular car, the 3 vanishing points is the correct one to define the height, length and depth of the car. I took as reference some other photos to help me to define the dimensions by repeating the wheels several times to measure the whole car, as if the wheels were a measure system. In this particular case, the distance between the wheels are 5 next to each other and less than 2 wheels from the floor to the top. I also modify it a bit because I think that the reference photo had a little distortion because of the front and back wheels don't perfectly match the direction of the vanishing point. The rendering process for this car is the same, light coming from one point to the 3-dimensional space, and this projects the light in the other direction. I took a creative license, and besides the car render with the original logos, I decided that it could be a great idea to create my own livery design. And for me, the best way to depict a Ferrari car could be a big prancing horse painted over the engine hood, a couple of Ferrari logos in the chassis, and red paint instead of the HP white stripe. And this is the final result for the prototype. 3 different posters, one for the whole team, one for Charles Leclerc, and another one just for Lewis Hamilton, which also have the options to have the original livery with the Ferrari's sponsors. And the final touch for this project was the Lego set. It was the last step due to Black Friday delays, so I had to adjust the design based on the Lego website reference measures. By the way, it was cool to construct this set. It was a little challenging, but the final result is quite satisfying. While ending the illustration project and the construction of the Lego set, I started thinking about creating a YouTube channel about this, since I have already recorded and documented the whole process, and this could be the prototype for the illustration style that I will use for the whole season. So my decision was to study more about animation. I've been a motion designer animator since 2004, but what I was thinking to do was a bit bigger than my After Effects skills, so I decided to study Cavalry. I knew that it was a procedural-based software. That means that it's similar to the way 3D software works, where you can connect nodes with different data and to achieve different outcomes, and not needing to use only the basic animation method based on key points and timelines. With this method, I wanted to create a set of helmets to identify each team, 11 in total. By creating simple animations with containers, duplicators, filters, deformers, etc., I could achieve cool animations so different from one another and totally customizable. Then for each driver, I recorded the sketch process with my particular style, defining lights and shadows with hatching. But the coolest part is that you can add external data to the animations, similar to what a website connected to a database can do. So I thought that it would be nice to create a semi-automatic animation system that could fit from real F1 data in an Excel. I created a system that can change all the data depending on each track, sprint, race, driver, qualifying, final result, or fast laps, and matching all this info with each driver and team. The results? Race and season results for each driver or team, driver comparisons, rivalries, graphs comparing the season's results by points, and more. All of this shown in a way that each team and pilot have the appropriate brand colors, helmets, and logos just by selecting which driver you want to see or compare him against another. For the race presentation, each track can show 3 different sectors, how many accuracy it has, altitude of the different curves, and important data about the track. The McLaren illustration. As my main purpose for this channel is to create custom-made illustrations for each team, and not only the best ones, I wanted to start the season with the current world champions and one of my favorite teams. My teenage F1 hero was Mika Häkkinen, not only because he had one of the coolest cars on the grid, the Silver Arrows, but because he was the main rival of a young Michael Schumacher, who by 1998 had 2 World Drivers' Championships, one with Benetton, and had already been in Ferrari since 1996. Hence, McLaren started to become my favorite team at that time. And besides that, I wasn't exactly a Ferrari fan. In fact, I've never been. One day I will make a concept art of Mr. Häkkinen and probably Mr. Schumacher too, but not today. Today I want to create something about our present, the McLaren present. Even though a lot of people is upset about these new regulations, I won't talk about it today. I want to talk about the process related to this concept art. These new regulations have some good things too. And one of those good things is the look of the cars. They really stand out and they are gorgeous, they look stylish, cool, aggressive and fast. In appearance they seem to be smaller. I would like they could be less big, but this is a good start. So this McLaren is not the exception. Let's start with the defending world champion, Lando Norris. I chose a more casual reference for this illustration, where he could look more relaxed and confident now that he is a world champion. But this was a photo from a different year, so I had to reference the new uniform. The color scheme is a little bit different, with a black layer over their left shoulder, enveloping half of their chest, and giving it a cool asymmetrical look. And obviously some sponsor brands changed positions and new ones were added too. The sketching and rendering process was the same I used for the Ferrari prototype. In fact, it was quite similar to Charles Leclerc one. Only differs that Lando is waving his hand, and due to changes I made to the illuminations from the original reference photo, this made me struggle a little bit changing the light in his hand and adding some light bouncing in his palm and fingers. Regarding Oscar Piastri, I wanted to depict him as more aggressive, the way I would like him to behave in the season against his teammate and another drivers, and hopefully have the chance to fight for the championship again. Anyways, I chose 4 different references to create his concept art. First, I pick a good posture where he is holding his helmet and have a good light too. Second, I picked a photo of his face where he looked more aggressive and less friendly. The problem? It was a low light photo and it was far from the camera. I had to admit it was not the best choice, but I guess the attitude was more appealing to what I wanted to achieve, sacrificing a likeness in the process. Third, I chose another hairstyle since in the aggressive face photo he had a cap. And finally, the color scheme and sponsors in his driver suit while preserving the posture, creases, light and shadows from the first reference. For the car, I used the vanishing points method, but this time only the 2 points perspective because we are not seeing so much of the top of the car. We can only see some of the front of the car, and much of the composition will be from the side. Distance between axles or wheels is a little bit different to cars from the last year. It's not exactly 5 times, it's more like 4.7 or 4.8 times the distance, which is a little bit less. Final composition was not that difficult. First, I wanted to create a more vibrant and a stylish look for the car, similar to a video game cover or a movie poster. So this is not an ultra-realistic painting. The track will be emitting its own light, as if it were from a Tron movie, thus illuminating the bottom of the wings, floor and wheels as well as other car parts closer to the bottom. I also added some bottom to top light in the driver's suit. This helped to separate the car in front and giving it a more prominent role in the composition. And this is finally the end result. I hope you like it. The content of this video is for entertainment purposes only. Just to clarify, this is just the artistic interpretation of a Formula 1 fan, and this video is not legally affiliated with Formula 1, any company, team or advertiser. This video is not promotional and is not intended to sell any products or merchandise related to this activity, yet.